Hey! Welcome to episode 94 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman. And what I love to do is invite people to remember that they can move through challenges, even really challenging challenges, and even have a good time doing it as much as possible. And my guest today will add immeasurably to the story. He's had a lifetime of experience with different challenges too. I mean, I guess we all have had a lifetime of experiences with different challenges in our own ways, but it's different from each of us, and approaches to challenges. So I'll bring my guests on in a minute, but first, please help me welcome Ryan Pflipsen.
Today's guest, Ryan Pflipsen.
I'm excited to tell you a little about Ryan, but first I want to ask you a question. Do you like to defy your own expectations? Do you like to defy your own expectations? My guest today, Ryan Pflipsen, has spent a lifetime defining expectations and overcoming obstacles. He was a few years ahead of me at O'Gorman High in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Luckily, he never picked on me. Thanks, Ryan. Unfortunately, I didn't get to know him back then because he could have coached me on getting out of my own way. Born with spinal bifida, Ryan is a lifelong veteran of challenge. He once asked when how many surgeries he has had, and he said, "That's kind of tricky. I kind of lost track." Fortunately, the phrase giving up is not in Ryan's vocabulary. Instead of letting his physical challenges sideline him, he charges ahead with the strength of a relentless rhino. He has earned 2 master's degrees. He advocates for kindness and fairness. As a powerful speaker, he encourages audience to give their all to their careers, their relationships, and their lives. He lives in San Diego, Texas, with his wife, Angela. They've been known to come back to South Dakota for high school reunions and to throw axes at one of those axe throwing places. So please help me welcome Ryan Pflipsen. Yay! Yay! And the timing's not great for me. Please help me welcome Ryan Pflipsen. Yay!
Woohoo! Hey, Jason.
Hey, Ryan. How are you in cool San Antonio today?
I was wondering, I caught in the intro there, you were trying to move me to San Diego, which, hey, might be cooler next to the ocean. But it's hot here in San Antonio. We've been around 100 degrees or above I think, and breaking records. I think we're like number 2 or number 3 in the all-time kind of streak of July or of 100-degree days or more. It's crazy. So we're staying inside and staying in the air conditioning, just like we were talking growing up north in Sioux Falls. We'd stay inside in the heater in the 60, 70 degree below winters that we'd experience up there. So we're trying to stay cool.
It's interesting that we start this conversation with the weather.
Yeah, just like old friends, which we are.
Yeah, and it strikes me that, I mean, we both are lifelong veterans to having. I have cerebral palsy. You have spinal bifida, and in a way, these lifelong things we have are kind of like the weather. We could spend the whole hour complaining about how hot it is in San Antonio and how cold it gets in South Dakota in the winter, and just complaining about how unfair it is and how we're all kind of stuck in the weather.
We could, but I'm guessing we're not going to. And hey, before we go any further, I'm sure your tribe knows this, but I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm so excited. Oh gosh. I apologize for that.
No worries. You're Mr. Popular.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really good birthday. I'm 47 and just so grateful to be alive and to be here.
Amen. I know we were originally scheduled to do this back, I think, on April 6th and had to reschedule, and I'm glad we were able to schedule it today.
Yeah, I am glad too, and we'll get more into the recent adventures of why we wanted to reschedule, but first, when I made the metaphor of comparing lifelong conditions to the weather, does that resonate with you, or does it not resonate with you?
Yeah, I definitely. I think it resonates on some level. Growing up in South Dakota, I learned that having some of the challenges that I have with spina bifida and walking around on crutches, it was a little tough. So I made the decision in college and grad school to kind of look at an opportunity to get to warmer weather. Just didn't realize how much warmer it was going to be down here than I thought it was. And, have ironically some of the same challenges where if I'm out and about on my crutches on a very hot 100-degree plus day, probably like any of us, I share some of the same challenges that I probably had in the cold. It's just some different things that the body does in those extremes.
So sometimes when we make a choice to totally leave a challenge, it finds a way to follow us.
I think so, and I've heard that where you have a challenge, or you think of like I know when I was here before, we kind of talked about my background as a rehab counselor and helping folks with vocational stuff, and you have a hard time at a particular job, and whatever that issue is, like we're talking, stay there, work through it, however the best you can. But sometimes what people do is they kind of run from job to job, and that same challenge follows them, wherever their employment might be.
Why do you, that's an excellent point. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think in part, you know, coming from maybe some of my social work and counseling background, there's, you know, something underlying, some, you know, root cause going on deep down that, you know, maybe we're unaware of, maybe we are aware of. My guess is probably not aware of until somebody can kind of point it out to you and kind of mentor you and kind of help you figure some of that out. But, you know, till you kind of change the way you think and believe in some of those things, our core values, like we talked about, I think last time a little bit, looking at what those, how those contribute to what we do, you know, it kind of produces the same results wherever you are in whatever environment you are, unless there's some environmental factors that might be able to make that, you know, better. And there's certainly, you know, with looking at different things, there's, you know, certainly different work environments that are more conducive to one person over the other. Some people like working, you know, they're introverted, they like working kind of in their little cubicle. Others would be miserable in a cubicle and need to kind of be out and about, maybe going around the neighborhood doing, you know, delivery or something like that. So
Let's break everything you said down a little bit, and I always like examples. So say hypothetically, I'll just use no, say hypothetically, someone named Bill, you're working with him, and he's always 20 minutes late to his work. So kind of, and you've helped him move to a variety of jobs, but he's always 20 minutes late. So where do you go next? Do you just fire Bill as a client, or what do you do?
I think a lot of employers would fire Bill, and I've worked for employers who kind of have that 3 strikes you're out. You get a verbal, you get a written, and then, you know, hey, you're getting called into some VP or director's office to say, you know, there's the door. Myself, from kind of more of the counseling standpoint, and being able to work with Bill, you know, would really look at, hey, Bill, you know, what's the reason you're always, you know, 20, 30 minutes late to work? You know, is it you're getting stuck in, you know, rush hour traffic, which we all know happens. It's a known. Or is it, you know, he's having to maybe, unbeknownst to the employer, go and maybe take care and stop by his, you know, widowed mom and check on her in the morning before he goes to work, and some of those things. And you know, you kind of, you know, from an EAP standpoint, and you know, looking at that, not that I haven't done a whole lot of EAP work officially, but, you know, and looking at vocational things like that, it's like, what's the obstacle? What's the cause to Bill coming in late 20 minutes? What can he do? What can he change in his routine? Maybe he needs to set the alarm, you know, and get up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe he needs to account for the fact that, you know, the way he's going to work might be a very congested way. Maybe there's a different way to go to work, a different path to take. You know, I've heard stories where, kind of unrelated, just as an aside, it's like, you know, we pay taxes every year on, you know, April 15th. And it's like, that's no surprise. We all know April 15th is coming around every year. We all know from a work standpoint, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whenever you have to report, it's coming around every 24 hours. So, you know, what's the big surprise? What's the obstacle? What's causing, you know, the issue? If that's the, you know, getting to work on time is the issue, or, you know, having a disagreement or whatever it might be with a coworker or family member or whatever.
So it might be obligations, it might be logistical.
Yeah.
Maybe Bill gets honest with you and says, well, Ryan, I just don't like the work. It's exceedingly boring. It's not what I meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens then?
Well, then, I can help Bill say, hey, take a look at, one, what are his abilities? What is he competent in? What's his interests? What's he passionate about? And then, guide Bill to maybe a more, fulfilling work setting, almost, looking at it from a vocation, standpoint, something that he's called to do. Some of us in life are blessed to be able to, have that vocation and be doing more of a vocational work. Some are feeling more like they're in, like Bill, in kind of that work, going to work, having to pay the bills, that rut, that routine. And so, being able to help folks kind of look at things like that has been a part of what I've done over the years, and been very rewarding to kind of see people kind of come in line with their passions and what they want to do.
We'll get back to this. I'm loving it, but Brian Lynch says hi.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for watching.
Good to see you, Brian. I saw Steve and Roxanne downtown like a month ago. Downtown Sioux Falls, I always like seeing your pants. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, really though, Ryan, what's an importance of following our individual callings and doing what we're passionate what we're passionate about? Isn't it about just making a buck?
Well, certainly we need to make a buck to, keep the roofs over our head and, food on the table and things like that. But, I think if we, do what we do and we can find a way to monetize our passions and, live that, I think it's just a more fulfilling life. And there are some times too where I've certainly had this, and folks that I've talked to, and some of the career folks and business and personal growth and development folks that I follow and whatnot, they'll say, and I agree with it, do the 9 to 5 that you have to do, and then they talk about an extra 15 hours a day. That's maybe the 7 to 10 o'clock at night, maybe a little on the weekend, doing what you want to do to pursue your passion and make that happen. And, kind of working around to where maybe you can monetize that passion and be able to replace your work income. Heard several stories over the years where that's possible. Unfortunately, for some, it might not be possible. They might have that mental obstacle or roadblock where it's not, they need kind of help looking at that and making it a reality. And that can be a challenge for folks. And sometimes I've had the opportunity to guide folks in that direction. And sometimes I haven't been the person to do that. And, I try and get around and listen to podcasts and folks that do that, and, who've, mentored me in certain directions. I think we talked last time where, having spina bifida, went to, we went to the same developmental pediatrician, I think, Dr. Jerry Blake, and had an opportunity to help him and some of the parents of kids with spina bifida create a camp called Spirit Camp. And, being able to, be a part of that was a good thing to help, those kids. And, if I could do something like that full time, that'd be great. The camp might not be a year-round thing though, so you have to find other ways and other ways to express your passion, your vocation. And
you haven't found a way to do that full time yet, at least.
Little bits and pieces. I don't do the 9 to 5 anymore. I actually kind of do a little of this, little of that. I have a few passions. Advocacy as a social worker being one, and doing the mental health piece being another. And so a lot of my time now, I was working with a nonprofit, still am, called Connectability. And they're located here in the basement of a rehab hospital. And they serve a variety of the disability populations, various conditions, and kind of are a place where they can have their support groups. But then they also offer various programming and case management. And about probably 3-4 years ago, they decided it was also important to support the family members, the caregivers. And so had the opportunity to facilitate, and now last year or two co-facilitate a caregiver support group. Now we're kind of shifting ways thanks to COVID and Zoom and things like that, to maybe offering a little bit of one-on-one caregiver support that we're just in the process of developing. But I do that, and then I work as a contractor for Gainwell in-home therapy services here in San Antonio. They got started about 5 years ago, and do mostly have clinical social workers that go into a home. I do a lot of their virtual work, either on the phone or Zoom on Fridays, and also go to a couple assisted living centers to visit in that manner. Since it's a little difficult, since I don't drive, I depend on paratransit or Uber and Lyft, and it's a little hard to, do a home visit and then say, oh, hey, sorry, I'm just looking, and my ride's not going to be here for 30 minutes. Can I hang out? Awkward. So yeah, doing that.
What do you do in that case?
I don't do home visits in the traditional sense. I just, like I said, I go to some assisted living centers where I can go to their rooms, and once I'm done, I can go to the lobby and wait on a ride there. So I do that, and then I also work with an attorney out of the Atlanta area. He and partner got introduced to them about 2-3 years ago. They come here and they look at strip centers and places that might need a better curb cut, ramp, bathroom, those sorts, lower counter, those sorts of things, and work with them to kind of patronize the place so that they can make the landlord and the tenant fix what needs to be fixed. So, and then, advocating with, I'll call my Congress people here in Texas, and, state level, US Congress level, and say, hey, there was, everybody heard about, probably during COVID, grocery stores were running out of water and hand sanitizer and this sort of thing. Well, the medical equipment companies that some of us use for some of our daily medical equipment needs, not talking like wheelchair walker, but just talking about more personal stuff. Some of those supplies were kind of hard to come by because they didn't have the people in their warehouses to, put it in boxes and, ship it. And, UPS and FedEx were having staffing issues and such with the supply chain stuff. So, from an advocacy standpoint, just trying to get that ball rolling again so that we can get what we need to be productive citizens as a person with a disability, and doing some different advocacy things as well with different things there, whatever it might be. So that's what keeps me busy, or almost busier than kind of the 9-to-5 grind, these days.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi. What would you say to someone who's considering that type of career where you're like an entrepreneur who does so many things? What would you say about keeping juggling that many balls and in keeping it all working?
I'll say this, and and going back to the counseling that I've done, and we hear so many. You talk about human resources in whatever company you might work for, and we're a resource for that company to meet the company's goals. And a lot of times, or not a lot of times, but sometimes you hear about companies that kind of abuse that, and they lose people because of it, and turnover. But there's no such thing, or it's very hard to multitask. I can't be sitting here focused on the screen and you and our conversation if I'm over here worried about, oh, what am I doing at 5 o'clock tonight, and I'm thinking about something for tomorrow. I gotta be focused on you. I can't be doing this and doing that at the same time, although I think a lot of people would like to kind of imagine that they can do that. You're going to lose focus on something. And so I encourage folks to just focus on that one thing in the moment, and focus on that. Be present. We talk about mindfulness in counseling, and being mindful with whatever you're doing. And so that's a kind of a big part of that. But I'll also say I like a variety. And so for me, doing so many things right now, or so many various, from the advocacy to the ADA work to the counseling to the support groups and things, I like that variety. But I plan it out. I know I have 24 hours in a day. I know I'm going to get 8 to whatever hours a day of sleeping, and then I break it up to where on Monday I'm kind of doing some paperwork stuff, and I go and do some of the site visits, or the assisted living client visits, and then Tuesday afternoon I do more of that. But then I take time out Tuesday morning to do chair Zumba, sitting right here in my office chair on Zoom with a Zumba instructor that does adaptive Zumba. And then on Wednesday, do the ADA work. And then Thursday, I'll do my student supervision for Gainwell with the student or students that I have. And Thursday afternoon, I'll do some chair yoga, again, right here. And then Friday, I'll do a lot of my teletherapy stuff. And so it's doing a lot, but it's not doing it. I'm not doing like trying to cram 3 days of everything into the week, which would make like a 10-day week. I think the same goes for the day. I've worked for places where, again, you get burned out as a human resource for your employer because you're wearing 3 hats and you should really only be wearing 1. And so it's finding that balance.
Am I understanding right that while you're doing Zumba, you're not thinking about your ADA work, and while you're doing your ADA work, you're not thinking about Zumba?
Correct. I'm enjoying Zumba, and then when it comes time for the ADA work, I'm enjoying doing that and making a difference. And when I'm seeing my clients via in person or Zoom or on the telephone, I'm focused on them. Yeah, 100% in, so I can help them.
How do you have some techniques for quieting your mind and cultivating the focus on whatever is in front of you at the moment?
A lot of that comes from a gentleman by the name of John Kabat-Zinn. I believe that's his name. And in the mindfulness movement, and doing mindfulness and just being present in the moment. A couple of simple things that you can do that I've done at conferences and participated in at conferences, not led, but everything from like mindful eating to mindful walking. You can, I think about, watching you and hearing how you go for a walk. You're focused on that walk, and when you kind of walk mindfully, and you can do this in a conference room or a ballroom, which is where I saw it. The presenter just had us basically walking not very far, but just kind of around in a little circle, and we're focused on, every step. You're feeling, your left foot lift up, toe, heel, and then, going forward and feeling and being aware of your foot touching the ground, and then lifting the other foot up, and, doing the same thing, and being focused on such a simple activity as walking, instead of kind of, we rush everywhere. We're walking. We're not really thinking about our walking. Driving, I hear, I don't drive due to a visual impairment that I have as well, but, driving, I hear, the stories where, hey, I just went, 60 miles down the interstate, I-29 up there, up in South Dakota, or 35 here, wherever around town. And, people are like, oh, hey, how'd I get there? Well, you got there, but it's so routine, we stop thinking about it. And so if you're more mindful about driving and being present and looking at what you're looking at and being in the moment, it's a very good skill to develop. And you can look up there's a lot of good stuff out there on mindfulness, and even some mindfulness apps. You can think about even eating mindfully and just being aware of, okay, I'm raising my fork or my spoon of what I'm eating to my mouth. I'm slowly chewing and tasting all those tastes of the food, and going for the next bite, as opposed to shoveling in, because we have 5 minutes to eat. So it's a very good thing to kind of just kind of center and be present in the moment. You can also, just something simple here, if you're at your desk at work or wherever, right now you can kind of pick like 2 points in your room. One that's maybe very close, like maybe my computer monitor here with you, and then maybe something that's a little further out in the distance across the room, hanging on the wall, and just kind of taking a few moments and focusing on one object that's on the desk, and then focusing on the object that's over by the wall, shifting that focus. So there's a lot of good mindfulness stuff out there. Breathing, obviously, fast breathing promotes anxiety and can be a symptom of, and just kind of perpetuate those kinds of stress and things. And so slowing your breathing down, I can feel, I'm excited. I'm excited to be talking to you, so I could hear it in my voice, but just, I catch myself and I'm just like, let me slow my breathing down. Just take a breath in through the nose, longer exhale if I can out my mouth, and being more present. And I've even had clients, put their hand up by their mouth and, feel the air. You feel the sensation of, we can't see air, but hey, we can kind of feel it on our hand. And another thing I'll have clients do, or folks do that I've worked with, is put a hand on their belly and on their chest. And if we're taking real good deep breaths, which is good for us, it oxygenates our bodies, our hand on our stomachs will move a little bit more than the one on our chest. And so many times when we're anxious, we take those shallow breaths, and the hand on the chest moves actually more than the one on the stomach, on the abdomen. So it's just one way to be more aware of your breathing, and it's a real good thing. You can kind of just be aware of if you're not comfortable putting your hand on your chest or your stomach when you're at work or whatever, people around. Just being aware of that stuff and slowing your breathing down and just taking kind of that mental break can help and just get you focused back on the present with your breathing, just and then you can focus more on what task you have at hand that you need to get back to.
I in the shift works, I feel increasingly relaxed as you talk about it. It's nice. It's nice, but the caveat is tough to remember to use in the moment. So it takes practice.
It does. And what I'll tell folks is use it. I was bad at this, still probably am. You go to the dentist and the dentist says, brush your teeth 3 times a day. I'm lucky if I do it once. But, if you do some of these mindfulness things, the breathing, whatever, throughout the day, when you don't need them, then when you do need them because you're having a stressful moment at work or at home, you can stop and then, use it. So it's more routine. It's more accessible to you. Because, that's, in talking about behavior and things, that's, the extreme, that's, what I've heard over the years. It's like, oh, I got so mad at that, driver next to me. I got all the rage. Or, oh, I got so upset at the person that's the coworker in the kitchen next to me. They just act, or they just react, and they're not thinking. And then all of a sudden, God forbid you stab your coworker, and then you have to or you kill somebody out on the road. You have consequences that you didn't think of before you did that. And so to kind of be able to hopefully be exposed to these things, and ideally probably in the schools or at home as you're growing up, to have these coping skills, but to develop them as soon as you can to help you. It's very, very beneficial.
This is such an important topic. Where you read what our friend speaker Alex Swanson says, or do you want me to?
Go for it. You can probably see it better than I can.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, read all about it. Two great leaders right here. Rock and roll. NDSO, no drama, serve others. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
So we've talked about, in terms of vocations and really anything we choose to do with a whole house, there's logistical issues like being on time and stuff like that. There's issues about purpose, and there's issues about, are we willing and able to focus on what we're doing right now? Issues of mindfulness or distraction. And then there's another big one. I know it's been a factor in my life many times that in the past I would tell myself, oh, I can't because I have a speech impediment. I can't because I'm too this or that. So what have you done in your own life, and what do you counsel clients to do with the I can't voice that seems to persistently come into human awareness?
Yeah, our self-talk, just in general, can be a definite challenge for all of us. It's there running in the background. We have how many millions of thoughts a day, and even pathologically in mental health, we talk about folks diagnosed with bipolar disorder who have kind of those racing thoughts, and they feel are to the extreme outside the norm. And being a person that has overcome a lot with different abilities, with having spina bifida, it's interesting because I've been able to. I had one of the folks just the other day say, "Hey, I can relate to you better than an able-bodied therapist because I see you struggle with pain and things like that I don't see them struggling with. I see you come in here with the wheelchair, with the crutches." So I have that as a known asset to my arsenal, to be able to say, hey, yeah, and look what I've been able to do with it. You can too. Let me help guide you, hold your hand, and be able to help you on your journey. And some are receptive to that, and some are not. Some will say, oh, well, you can do it. I don't think I can. And that's where you have kind of the real frank conversation. Why not? Why not you? And I've had people, say that to me, when I've had those thoughts, oh, I can never do, X, Y, Z. Maybe I can't, probably can't be a firefighter or a police officer, but, maybe I can go work in a 911 center or do something else that I do have the abilities to do. But certainly if I have the abilities to do something, it definitely, having others and asking others. I've asked students in classes that I've spoke at, and just, other people throughout the years, hey, what'd you think of me when you first saw me? What'd you think of me when we first met? Maybe we were introduced. What do you think of me now today? What are your impressions?
What a
Perception.
what great
Yeah.
questions. Wow.
Going back to behind me, the over here, the prism. What do you see? What's your perception? And to have that feedback of what others see that you can do is valuable feedback, I think. And being able to use that and then help others in much the same way. But I'll kind of leave it at that right now. I was having another thought, but it didn't quite come to me.
I have more questions.
Go.
Alex Swanson says, Speaker Alex Swanson says, do you know how many people I went into in the self-development journey who say they can't because they don't have a speech impediment? They will make up any and all excuses which literally don't make any sense. Only person who can stop you is you. We all are awesome. That's wonderful, Eric. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I always love the, oh, you can do it. I'm doing it. It might have been some business opportunity or something. I'm multi-level marketing when I was involved in that. It's like, oh, why not you? And they're like, I'm doing it. I'm getting on a paratransit van. I'm going to Starbucks here or whatever for 3 hours to meet people. I can't hop in a car and be home in 10 minutes like you can. I'm making this happen and I'm making it work. What's your excuse? You eliminate their excuses. So I love doing that.
When you eliminate someone's excuses, what happens next? Do they just go out and do the thing they've been avoiding?
I hope in some circumstances, you never know in some cases.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you don't, they just, you're with them for that moment and you don't know how they took it. Maybe they did at some point, have that light bulb go off and do something. Other times, they just with that mentality that they have and they can't do it. But they don't, it's like they don't know. They're deer in the headlights. Look, they don't know what to say because you just challenge their objection to the point that, oh yeah, he's doing that, and what's my excuse?
Speaking of light bulb going off, who are some people in your life, or can you think of one specific story of a time you were telling yourself that you couldn't do something and then someone came along and said something to you that helped you alter your perspective?
I was thinking of that earlier. That might have been what I was alluding to, sharing. And I think I shared it when we were back talking on episode 31 of your podcast. Had the experience, growing up, probably about age 7, where I'd been swimming, taking swimming lessons on Wednesday night at a local Children's Hospital and School there in Sioux Falls, and had a volunteer instructor through the Red Cross, and was basically swimming in the shallow end from like age 5 to 7. And they obviously, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, they saw something in me that I didn't have the vision or the perspective to see yet. And one night after swimming lessons with the group of kids and their mothers, we're going upstairs up to the parking lot, and one of the mothers from behind says, "Hey Ryan, can you do me a favor?" And parents raised us to be, my brother and I, to be, upstanding, helpful, whatnot. And I said, "Sure," without thinking. And you're laughing because I think you remember the response was, "Next week you have to swim in the deep end." And I dreaded that whole week. And that next Wednesday night came, and sure enough, my mom, those moms, they, the instructor, they held to it. And I had to let go of the side in the, 7, 8, 9 feet of water. And of course they had me and, arm's length away, but they made me realize that, hey, what I was doing in the shallow end, I can do in the deep end, and I'm okay. And, now today, love the water, love doing, everything from adaptive surfing when I had the one opportunity to do that a few years back, to the dozen times that I've done adaptive water skiing, and love swimming, and all that good stuff.
Oh, and then you talked about it last time, but tell about what you did lifeguard training.
Yeah. In high school, senior year, I think I had done what I had done through the swimming classes that I was just talking about on Wednesday nights, and was getting to that point of, graduating, going off to college. And I thought, hey, what's that, next step up? And I thought, okay, well, lifeguard training or water safety instruction training. And I think I chose the harder of the two with lifeguard training, and ended up taking, I think, a 2-week class over Christmas break or something like that, or maybe it was Thanksgiving, or I'm guessing it was probably Christmas.
How many hours a day?
I think it was in the evening. Might have been earlier, maybe 3-4 hours, probably. Wow. A couple of, a week of classroom type stuff, and then a week of proficiencies. And when it came down to it, I ended the class with, I think 4 that I hadn't passed, but had the opportunity to, with the camp that I went to, go back and mentor at that Camp Courage, and work with their water safety instructor and lifeguards that next summer. I think they gave me a year to try and pass those remaining 4 tests, and got all but 2 of them. So, came close to being the first lifeguard that had a physical disability in the state of South Dakota. And they did a news story on me and whatnot, which is kind of nice, warm and fuzzy. But just even though I didn't meet that goal, just the challenge of doing that, I think improved my confidence and kind of instilled that can-do attitude. And I do a lot of reading nowadays. I always say I kind of maybe could have if I would have. Like I said, I love the water. And there's a lot more than just swimming that goes into it. But, maybe would have liked to have been a Navy SEAL and kind of deal with some of the, crazy stuff that they have to deal with if I was, physically able. But, I do a lot of reading on, what they have to physically do during training, and then, go through with mindset and mentality. So love reading about, some of that stuff. And, that helps my mindset, definitely.
Doing lifeguard training and coming so close. I mean, you really were swimming in the to follow the metaphor, swimming in the deep end. Not only for the 2 weeks, but but you went back and you got coaching during the summer at camp, and ended up doing all but two, and how has that I mean, you've got since then you've got two master's degrees. You do all these different your careers all in all these different areas, and you can kind of see how the trajectory of your confidence might have built from that experience and persisting at that experience up to now.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of looking back, and looking forward, you can see that trajectory, and I think it's just it's been kind of my mentality has been even though I have some things physically that I have going on, I'm gonna do what I can do to enjoy life and do things that I enjoy, and be around the people I enjoy being around, and trying to accomplish and do things. It's not all about the accolades, but certainly those are nice to say. Oh, I did this or I attempted that, but just try and encourage myself and encourage others to again, going back to pursuing your passion, do what you want to do to the best way that you can do it. And I think was just thinking of that as far as kind of the imperfect best. I know we've talked about and we'll talk about toward the end here, and do what you love to do in the best way that you can do it, and be you. And I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not whoever. I'm Ryan Pflipsen, and I want to be the best me so that I can be the best me for not only myself, but for others.
As you've strengthened yourself, you've not only used that strength for yourself, you've used it to encourage others and to counsel others. Like your efforts in lifeguard training and in everything you've done, you've allowed them to ripple out. You've allowed those efforts to ripple out to bless others. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, that's what I think. Looking back, that's part of what I've tried to do, and what our parents instilled us in us to do. Help others, and going back to kind of the mental health piece. You're feeling down, you're feeling anxious. One of the best things you can do, get out of your own head, and help others. If you have a neighbor or friend that's going through something, checking in with them and kind of being in their world for a moment, an hour, a day, whatever, can definitely help you get out of your head and your problems. Not that they're going to go away. You don't want to totally avoid them, but you might find some support and different way of tackling what you're going through. There might be some sort of insight in helping the other person.
That's so important. Ak has a gem for you. Or a suggestion. Ryan's book title. Your book title should be "Swimming in the Deep End."
Love it.
And then he also says, "Let's all build a Avatar Warrior Make Excuses Conference. It will be instantly sold out."
Yeah.
Maybe are you kind of using reverse psychology with that, like talking about making excuses and really celebrating all the excuses we make, so then we can decide to put that to the side and
Get
move
rid of them.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure. It's a fun idea.
Yeah, actually, another book title I thought of doing, just kind of with some of the leadership stuff that I like to talk about and do too, is Able to Lead. So that would be another, I think, book title that I'd love to develop.
Able to lead.
Able to Lead. Yeah, and looking up to people like FDR, who had polio and was in a wheelchair. There's a great example of somebody who is one of our most beloved presidents, and served the longest of any, and it will, unless they change the law back. You can only serve 2 terms, up to 10 years, I think. So
and he could have easily said I have polio, there's no way I can be president, but he didn't say that.
Nope. Yeah. Made it happen.
So we're in the last 4 minutes of a podcast, and I'm amazed and delighted. We haven't talked much at all about your health challenges of the last few months. Like you've had a huge experience with them, but but it's like you don't need to. It's like you've had a huge experience with the challenges, but and you're living your life right now. Can you talk a little bit about juggling two complex things? Can you talk a little bit about that juggling act?
Sure. Yeah. As going back to episode 31, I think we did that right before or right after I had a right hip replacement. For many years, I had probably a leg discrepancy of about my right leg being about a ½ inch shorter, and just part of the spina bifida, the way my bones developed and such. And so I would hop around swinging through on my crutches, and that was what I did for years, and approached some orthopedic surgeons over the years and said, hey, can we do this artificial total hip replacement thing and maybe even out my legs? And a year ago found a guy that would do it, a new doctor that came into the clinic that I go to, and we did it, and it was great. For the first time in years, I could actually walk on both of my legs. They were even, and did that from last summer when I got cleared to be full weight bearing till January or so, when I went in to get an x-ray for my March 1-year follow-up, and they found that the rod in the femur had shifted and started pushing out on the femur, and they were I think the radiologist said it's risk of imminently fracturing. I'm having visions of breaking through the leg, compound fracture, blood everywhere, whatever. And so they got me in to my orthopedic surgeon sooner than later, and we were looking at having the surgery scheduled actually I think yesterday originally, and my surgeon was going to go on paternity leave for about 3 months. Well, I'm in the office in March, and okay, yesterday's the plan, so gotta wait a couple more months, and all of a sudden, later that week, he wants you to come in, and the nurse messages and says, hey, he wants you to come in and see the nurse practitioner. And sure enough, got another x-ray a week later, and it shifted more. They bumped me up to I want to say it was April 4th, and I'm like, that's a week away. Oh boy. And I think we were originally scheduled on the 6th. So I'm like, hey, Jason, things have changed. I think we need to bump back today, the interview that we're doing right now. And so we did. But then ironically, the surgery got bumped twice from the 4th to the 18th, and finally had it on the 25th of April, and was in the hospital for a couple of days, and then went to rehab for about 10 days, got home around the 5th or 6th of May, and had a wound vac on the hip, and a couple days later, and knew some stuff that had some issues, and leaked, and ended up back in the hospital later that weekend on, I think, the 8th, and a couple more surgeries to clean out the hip on the 10th and the 13th, and PT, OT, and nursing, and IVs, and I was on IV antibiotics for 6 weeks. So it was a challenge to go through that, but I'm off the IV antibiotics. Did that through mid-June, I think, and then on some liquid antibiotics now, and getting back. I'm a big advocate of when things happen to you, and we've experienced some things, some other obstacles personally, and whatnot. And my big thing is, hey, get back into that regular routine as best you can. And I kept my routine as best I could when I was in the hospital around therapies and things like that. So it helps.
As we go for what we want, that sometimes just happens along the way to be major challenges, and talk about a major challenge, and I'm glad we end the podcast here, because so many people right now are experiencing a major challenge of one type or another that feels totally or at least somewhat unique to them, and what you've taught me during this hour is to approach major challenges not just by throwing up our hands and saying there's nothing to do, but to when employ a team, like you've had a team of you work with different teams of people, and you've had medical teams helping you, and then to address logistical concerns, and three to just know to be mindful through it all, even though that's a challenge. There are techniques, there's a ton of techniques, and speaking of challenge, to be rigorous with finding the people who will help you develop good self-talk, and monitoring that within yourself. Do you have anything else to add in closing, my friend?
I think I'll just end like kind of we did last time, and one of the things I know I've seen you do, a little hand gesture, finger gesture when you've done some speaking, and one of my, as folks know, one of my nicknames is Rhino, and if you stick your index finger and the thumb up, that kind of looks like the horns of a rhino, and just you want people to think of that, and when they're going through a tough time, say, horns up, charge ahead. And that's part of that mental attitude and whatnot that can get you through what you need to go through and not avoid. So embrace life, charge through those obstacles, and reap, I think, the rewards and the blessings that life has to give us through family, friends, and all the rich experiences that we get to experience, whether they're things we choose or things that are thrust upon us that we, in the case of some of my medical stuff, have to embrace and look for the blessings in.
What horns up? What a great way to end, and what a great last statement of encouragement. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, wisdom, and kindness with us.
My pleasure as always, Jason. I'm glad to be able to spend a little bit of time with you today on your birthday.
Cool. Thank you, and go Knights, right?
Go Knights. Yeah.
That's a high school mascot. Thanks, Ryan. Wow. I feel this more and more each conversation I've had, and I have 94 of these now. The people we it's so, for whatever reason, as humans, it's so easy to stop feeling isolated, and we're all alone in our problems and all alone in trying to find solutions. But really, the people all around us are dealing with problems and trying to find solutions, and they have wisdom and they have experience where we don't have, and they articulate things in a way we don't have. I'm so inspired by talking with Ryan for an hour, not just because he's done amazing things with his life, but he inspires me to tap into what I can do to better my life and find solutions to the problems and challenges in my life. So thanks for tuning in. Next week, another podcast. My last one from sunny San Diego. And then I'll be back in South Dakota. It's less dramatic. So next week I have Tom Hack on. Wait here. Tom Hack. He's going to. I'm super excited to talk with him, and he works with students and teachers across North America and has so many inspiring ideas, and he's just awesome. So please tune in next week. Until next week, here's the outro. Sometime I'll smooth it out. Not this week though.